I know.
You know, Brendan. All right,
I do know.
we are live.
Cool. How are you? You better?
Yeah, much better. Back to life.
Good. Good. Good.
Uh,
So the title. Explain the title because this is a good one. This is I think everybody's going to get some. We're going to get some enjoyment out of it, but then we're going to hopefully maybe get a lesson or two out of it. Don't text me at 11 a.m. 11 p.m.
11 p.m.
So
11 a.m. is okay.
yeah, 11 a.m. is good.
It's perfectly fine. Yeah, right after prospecting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So enlighten us.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm referring to agents, texting agents. Like, what I still can't understand and wrap my head around is why is this? Why is real estate? Why are real estate agents? Why are we in the one industry where there is no business hours and non-business hours? Like, why is it that it's 7 days a week from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to sleep? It's okay to be working. It's okay to be texting one another. It's okay to be sending offers and expect instant responses. Like, why is this the one industry? I can't call my banker Friday at 6:30 p.m. I mean, I can. I got a relationship because it's a small bank, but typically you can't
Mm-hmm.
just call your banker at 6:30 p.m. or your attorney at 6:30 p.m. and expect them to answer the phone, right? So as a consumer, it's ingrained in you that look, there's business hours 9 to 5, and then
Mm-hmm.
after that, if it's a Friday, you wait till Monday morning. But when it comes to real estate, there is no distinction between off and on. So that's what was going through my mind for this topic.
Yeah. Yeah. Got
Why?
it. Good.
Why, Brendan? Why? Explain it to me.
I can give you what I give you my. Can I give you my opinion?
No, your opinion is the truth. So yeah,
Okay.
you know everything. So tell me. Yeah.
I think there is some truth to this, but it's my truth. So we'll see if anybody else
Yeah.
can feels the same way. So we have, and you're right. There's no job. I mean, even in the jobs where you can be on call, but that's assumed like that's part of the responsibility. But as a professional, people don't set limits. My theory is because we are highly compensated in terms of what we actually do. We have to have a lot of skills to be highly compensated. We have to put in a lot of time, put in a lot of work. But at that point that you become proficient at the trade, then you are highly compensated. And I think that people ultimately have some challenge with that. We've talked about it before. I think that people, agents, when they start doing deals, sometimes it's like, man, I need to justify what I'm doing every single day because I'm getting paid a lot more than I did in this other life or other career. And I had to do a lot more harder things. I had to, do physical things, or I had to work long hours. So now I expect the same thing. I think that's the first part is mentally we haven't adjusted to the fact that we are providing a huge service and we are highly valued. And so then we can be compensated for that. And we start making up excuses for why we really have to like be busy all the time. And then I think the second part of it is because we just simply don't set any parameters. And we say,
Mhm.
okay, you know what? I'm going to try to do this every single day um, at all hours of the day because there's nothing in place that says when I'm on, I'm going to be on. And when I'm off, I'm going to be off. So I would be willing to bet that the person that is texting someone about sending an offer in or this at 10 o'clock at night, the rest of their day is completely unstructured. I don't see how anybody could go from 7 a.m. working until 10 o'clock at night with a completely structured program. If they were doing that, they'd be so successful in the business that they probably wouldn't be doing anything on their own.
Mhm.
So I think it's twofold. It's setting parameters for yourself, working a schedule, and then the other part of it is just understanding that you can be that professional that you reference. You can be that doctor attorney that doesn't take calls at 8 o'clock, and nothing is going to like. There's really nothing that is going to fall apart over the course of the next 8 hours. But if we trick ourselves into thinking that we're so important that we've got to get involved in that right then, it leads for a pretty stressful career. And I know it upsets you.
It does. It does. I get mad, and I don't get mad so easily.
You don't?
But you said, yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. Both of the things you said, but I want a little bit more clarity on the first thing that you said, because you said we're highly compensated.
Hmm.
So I know that this is not what you meant, but I want to make sure that we're clear. We don't take calls. Being highly compensated doesn't have to equal us working 24/7. But
Hmm.
our perception of what the compensation is relative to what we think our value is, or what we think we're putting in, is the issue, right? Because attorneys are highly compensated, surgeons
Yep.
are highly compensated. Those guys aren't taking calls
Yep.
Saturday afternoon with their kids.
Yeah.
So okay, just want to make sure.
But the perception is, and if you're listening to this, and tell me if you've ever experienced this, where you have, and maybe, if you're honest, maybe early on, you actually were the person I'm going to describe. But in a transaction, think about how you've got something that, maybe it's a deal you've already put together, and now you've got this little issue that's come up, and maybe it's an inspection. And there's a couple of things that need to be worked out. Buyer and seller are probably going to work them out. But now you've got an emotional agent on the other side. And the emotional agent jumps into the transaction and is like, I have got to figure this thing out. And now we have this little bitty thing in a transaction that turns into this giant issue. And a lot of times that's because the agent feels like, you know what? I almost have to go in and prove my value to my seller or to my buyer. And I'm not saying people go in to purposely derail things, but a lot of times when we get involved in that stuff, we do have a tendency to cause things to happen in a transaction that really were just simple things, but they become really, really big things because we go to our seller and say, hey, I think this is what's going to happen. Then it doesn't. Well, stop trying to think what's going to happen. Just this is what's going on. Now we're going to deal with it. Now we're going to work through all these things, but we have to we're trying to really make ourselves feel like we're worthwhile for what we're earning. And a lot of times that's just extra stuff that it doesn't have any value to the seller. The seller hired you for a job, do the job. You don't have to be overly impressive about how you did it. Just get the job done.
Yeah, and it's not personal. And then also, and I get this question all the time from agents, like, well, what should we do? Who's we? Like me and my buyer, like, what should we do in this scenario? I was like, well, first of all, it's not your choice. You don't decide what to do.
Yeah.
Your job is to gather the data, present it to your client, and then they make the decision on what they want to do. Now, if they want your opinion, then you could give them an opinion, but it's not a we decision. It's a client decision, right? So Sam Abdullah, great guy. He said it's the commission period. You're right. It's light work based on what we do. But here's the negatives to this though, Brendan, right? So what ends up happening is you've got these agents that work all day, all night. So they're texting each other all day, all night. They're expecting responses all day, all night. And then what happens is the consumer is now trained that anytime that they want a real estate agent, they press a button and they don't get a call within 30 seconds, then they're calling the next agent. And the consumer becomes trained that, look, I'm going to text you at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. They're not thinking, well, maybe he's with his family, with his kids having breakfast or whatever. So, but that's the ramifications of us doing this as an industry is we open this up to the consumers.
Now I'm going to stand up for us all right now and say that the real estate industry did not train the consumer that they should have instant gratification. Every industry that's out there has trained the consumer, including me, that I want instant gratification on most of the things that I do. But I know what you're saying. It doesn't help anybody in the scenario.
If we can track, let's take bankers, let's take attorneys, let's take doctors, and track how many phone calls they get at between 5:01 p.m. on a Friday and 8:59 a.m. on a Monday compared to how many phone calls real estate agents get. No comparison.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It goes back to what I said. I don't think that most agents view themselves as professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a huge part. The other scenario that is kind of along the same lines, I'll give you mine. I've had this used to happen maybe every couple of months. In the last 30 days, I've had 3 agents from 2 out of state, the third out of market, and not close out of market, like 100 miles away. 3 agents call me.
I know where you're going with this one. Yeah,
to get into 3 different listings because they weren't part of our MLS and had no access to the MLS lot box that we use in our association. So again, I look and I go, you've got 100 miles, and then one was Charlotte, one was Raleigh, so they're a couple hundred miles. You're going and showing property 200 miles away for your buyer. Like, service is one thing, but there has to be a value for your time. And I think it goes back to the same thing as, like, how could you not refer that out to someone that's going to take good care of them, vet the agent, take care of all that stuff, and not go do something more productive if it's about the money? If it's about the value, then I understand, but what's the limit? Like, where wouldn't you go? Because none of these 3, they were not buying the property for themselves, and it was not a family member. It was a client that, they're a really good client, a past client. Well, my value to my past client, if they're buying in Atlanta, is I'm going to refer them to the best agent that I can find in Atlanta, because it's not me.
So you're not going to call someone in Atlanta and say, look, I've got a client, but I can't make it there. Can you show your listing to them for me?
Oh, yeah. That was the other side. No, I'm going to call them and say, listen, this is your listing. I'd love you to show it to them. They're willing to work with you on dual agency. That's great. And if not, why don't you show them something else? Because I'm not qualified to go take them through Atlanta. And that's a bad example because they're not even licensed there. But these were at least they were fairly close. It wasn't a completely different region.
Yeah, being licensed in one state doesn't mean that you get to work the entire state.
Yeah. Oh, you can. I mean, go for it. I think that there's, from an efficiency standpoint, and from, gosh, I mean, really, if you feel like service, if that's what it's about, I would argue every day that the local professional, refer them over to them. And, that's service for your client, not you driving 2.5 hours, but just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I get it. So the moral of the story is what? Don't text me after business hours.
Well, I think the moral of the story is maybe if your expectation is that you're a professional, then maybe set up your business like a professional would. And if your expectation isn't as a professional and you're doing this part-time and that's okay too, then I would hope that those are the scenarios where you're willing to drive 2 or 3 hours to show your past client a property in a completely different market. We're not going to be able to control that. We're not going to be able to stop that. But I think it all comes back to deciding, okay, am I going to set my business up as a business owner, or am I just going to react to everything that comes on in front of me? And that can, at minimum, cause a lot of inefficiencies.
Yeah, and a lot of heartache, and it's tiresome.
Yeah.
And
we don't want to upset you.
And yeah, you don't want to upset me. Okay. All right. Well, you guys, thank you for watching. Chime in if you got some comments, like what we said, don't like what we said. You have an opinion, please, mention it. And Brendan, enjoyed it. Next week, are we on next week?
28th. Yeah.
I think we're on next week. Yeah, I'll be around.
Cool.
Okay. We'll see you guys next week, 4:00.
See you soon.
See ya. Bye.